Good morning, everyone. We're very pleased to see you and glad that you're enjoying some breakfast this morning. Welcome to today's event, the DEN event. DEN is Develop, Engage, and Network, and it's sponsored by the Business Impact Lab. I'm Maureen Andrade, and I'm the interim director of the Business Impact Lab. So the purpose of our events, Develop, Engage, and Network, is to bring together professionals to build skills and exchange ideas and strengthen your network. So talk to each other. I noticed this table was already talking. That's great. So it's designed to be a practical learning experience. And today we have Jo Dailami, and she was also here in January. We enjoyed her very much then. And she's a learning and development expert with extensive experience in leadership training, negotiation, and performance development. And she has background in corporate training and sales leadership to deliver practical real-world strategies. Today, she'll be talking about negotiate like a pro, tools and tactics to earn higher salaries. And she'll talk about the tactical side of negotiation. And we'll learn how to clearly communicate our value, use strategic language that commands respect, and apply techniques that shift negotiation dynamics in our favor. So that sounds really, really good. So we'd like to welcome Jo back and let her move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today again with you all. For those of you who have attended the previous two sessions, we do kind of brief overviews in this one. So if you missed it, you'll be caught up. Otherwise, we'll just do a quick recap. But as mentioned, this training, the concept around it or the objective behind it is that you can have some practical tools. What is it that you're going to do when you enter into those negotiation conversations? And the first thing I would like everyone to do is to imagine in your mind a negotiation conversation that is going really well. I just want you to kind of visualize that. And then I would love, there's microphones on each of the tables. I would love to hear, what does it look like? What do you see? What do you hear? What's going on in that conversation? Any brave volunteers? Yes, thank you.
So for a effective negotiation, I feel like you have conveyed your value enough that they, at this point, are saying someone with your skills would expect to receive this amount of compensation. How does that work with what you were expecting? And then you'd be able to say either this is exactly what I was expecting, or have you considered this part of my resume that might bump up the salary?
That's so great. And I heard two things in there. You're communicating your value. That means you have to know it, right? So we have to be connected to our personal sense of value to articulate it and to connect it with that organization's need. That's a positive negotiation. Anyone else? Are you trying to say something? I think that when I think of a positive negotiation conversation and I see it in my mind, it's very simple things. It's not rocket science. It is very small ways of the way we present ourselves, the way we speak to ourselves. I love to think about a child negotiating. I don't know how many parents we have in this room, but I have two littles. And when we think about negotiation, it is interwoven through our entire lives. We negotiate all of the time. But when we're a child, my children put me in a position where I have to prove to them why it's a no. They have no stories about worthiness. They have no insecurities about their value. They feel completely fine to put me in the seat to go, you tell me why I can't have this thing. Right. And as we get older and older, we start experiencing rejection. We start experiencing conditioning that tells us to shrink back, to be small. And we lose that sense of, I deserve this so much. You tell me why I can't have it. So I want you to kind of imagine embodying that energy in your negotiation conversations and think about it in that lens as we move through this conversation. So, why is it important to negotiate? I don't think I need to convince any of you that money matters. We all know that. This impacts our day-to-day life, the money that we have. It impacts our future. It impacts what we can and cannot do in this world. Money matters tremendously. So why do you think many of us have a hard time asking for it? Any thoughts? Yes. There you go.
Because we've been conditioned to shrink down, right? We've been conditioned to lower our voice, to not speak out, and those types of things. How we're rewarded from, particularly as women, growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. We experience that rejection. We experience that fear of, if I speak up, there's going to be a consequence, even sometimes. But this is I actually love this chart, because what this shows is the compound effect of negotiating just $5,000. I can imagine that if I'm in a situation where we were just talking, Lindsay was mentioning, her husband was already offered a great compensation package. I had this happen as well, where I'm like, wow, I'm getting that's a great amount for me. Do I still negotiate even $5,000? And because it's uncomfortable, my instinct is to go, it's okay. I don't need to do that. I'm not going to push for $5,000. But if you are walking into, in this example, a job at $50,000 and you negotiate $5,000 to 55, this chart does include a yearly cost of living increase of about 2%. But after 5 years, the cumulative difference is just under $30,000. And after 10 years, it's just under $60,000. And after 30 years, assuming you are still at 50, you're still at that, you haven't grown, you haven't gone into another organization, $245,000. So what does that do for you? Does that matter? Does that impact your ability to purchase a home, your retirement? This matters so much that it is worth the work if it is uncomfortable for you to do. It is worth you think about, how long is that uncomfortable conversation? 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, in order to positively impact your financial trajectory. It is worth it. It's worth this work. So the first thing we're going to talk about, the first part of this series, was the Know Your Value, Know Your Worth. And in that, we talk about those beliefs, those core beliefs, that conditioning that we experience that makes us enter into these conversations in an uncomfortable way. Can anyone tell me why you or someone you may know might have a hard time negotiating? What is the belief behind that? What is the thought behind that? What's the story behind, I cannot negotiate right now? Any brave volunteers? Yes, we'll start here. Right. Right. Yep. Yes. Oh, thanks. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yes. Great. Anyone else? Yes.
I think that gets compounded as women too. Often I know I felt like, oh, I'm just grateful that they're offering me a spot.
Mm.
And I have to take it. Otherwise, if I argue too much or if I push back too much, they're going to think that I'm ungrateful or they're going to think that I don't want it and they'll just move on to somebody else.
Yep. What you're saying.
Something that a friend of mine had was timing was all wrong.
Mm.
The company had recently lost a large amount of funding, so it wasn't ideal because you're typically supposed to ask for a raise when the company's doing really well, when you've landed a KPI, but it was just the company seemed to be going down with funding, all the budgets were tight, and it just didn't seem like the right time to negotiate or to ask for a raise.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think that we need to have awareness of what's going on. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but absolutely, like the business, the economy, things are not in a great financial space. That makes me feel less capable of having those conversations. Any other thoughts? What I hear in those very normal stories and beliefs is a lot of fear and a lot of scarcity and a lot of unworthiness. So when we're thinking about entering into a negotiation conversation, and this is the work that I had to do because I had all of those same fears and same beliefs. Like I have to just be grateful, specifically when the amount was really high, but I felt that way even when it was low. I have to be grateful. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be perceived as greedy, or I don't want to lose an opportunity that might be mine. We have to do the work there and write those things down. What am I afraid? Why is it so uncomfortable for me to have these conversations? Because those are the roadblocks to these conversations. Those will make you shaky the entire time. I can tell you about the power of the pause, and I can tell you about articulating your value, but it really starts here. This is the pre-work of going, I know my individual sense of worthiness. I know what I bring to an organization. I know what I am uniquely qualified to do. I know the work that I put in, and I deserve to have this conversation. I deserve it. I do also want to say, for those in the room, this might not be an issue for you. You might feel completely empowered to have these conversations, but I'm also so glad you're in the room, because when you're in a position of power or a leadership position, to understand that many people don't feel that way is also very helpful. I was talking to my brother this last weekend, and we were talking about negotiating, and he was like, it never even crosses my mind that I shouldn't have that conversation. It feels no way to me to ask for tens of thousands of dollars more. Why wouldn't I? It's not even in his frame of reference. He doesn't think that way at all. And when he's told no, he doesn't attach that to himself at all. There's no story that is formed of his unworthiness. So we don't all struggle with this, but if you do, it's worth the work. If you don't, that's how we can help lift others up as well. Preparation is power. The last session that was done by Britt Davies was on comp philosophy. Such a powerful training. I think that it's posted. If you missed that, I highly recommend it, because the most successful negotiations happen long before you enter the room. That preparation, we cannot just go off of vibes. I hear people sometimes say, well, I deserve more. Well, based on what? And compared to what? Just, is that a feeling? That's not going to go far in any organization. We need to be able to go in with data based on our specific experience, based on the market, and based on the individual organization you are speaking to. All of those factors need to come into play. In that comp philosophy training, there's a section that talks about some tools that you can use. There's Glassdoor, PayScale. Now, these are self-reported, and again, not necessarily accounting for a specific organization. I'm a business owner. I'm starting a business right now. I'm going to have a different capacity than a 20-year-old organization. I'm going to have a different, everything's going to be different. There's probably going to be more flexibilities, but there might be less bonus, you know, or whatever it may be. So we have to take all that into consideration. LinkedIn is a great space for that. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, I believe that this is a 2-year lag, but it's still very valuable. My personal favorite is transparent.utah.gov, because that is any government worker in the state of Utah, their salary is reported. So I'm able to go back in the day when I was director of learning and development. I could say, well, what is a director of learning and development in Utah? What are they getting paid? And able to really speak to our unique market. Highly recommend that one. But it's really important to understand the organization's compensation structure and their comp philosophy, whether it's an organization you're already in or one you're entering into, to have that conversation of, do you have salary bands? Some organizations don't. A startup might not, you know, but if I'm talking to a new company and they say, yes, we have a bottom and we have a top and we don't move outside of that, that's good for me to know. You want to understand promotional criteria. Like at my last job that I was mentioning, that I asked for more. They gave me about half what I asked for, but then they said, in 6 months, let's review, because we'll do a performance review. And based on that, we can make up that other piece. So great conversation to have, because in 6 months, what am I doing? Remember when we talked about that 6 months ago? I've done these things. I've exceeded in these areas. I've overshot in these areas. It's an easy conversation to have because we had the pre-conversation. So being prepared is paramount. And I would also say another piece of preparation is, in every conversation you have with the recruiter, with the hiring manager, you are collecting data. You are listening. What are they asking for? What are they saying they need? What are they saying is an issue in the past? What is the gap that you're going to then speak to? I can do this for you, right? So it's data as much as possible. The next thing is achievement translation. Any organization is looking for someone that is capable of doing the job to impact the business in a positive way. So we want to demonstrate that our capacity to be that person. When I was newly in my career 100 years ago, at that time, I was doing so much. I was working so hard. I was taking on every single thing I could possibly do. I was leading a team. I was changing structural things. I was adjusting processes. I was training. I was doing so much. And I remember I was needing to write a resume, and I felt absolutely immobilized by that. Because for me to sit down and speak to what I do felt unbelievably uncomfortable for me. Right now we have ChatGPT, which is profoundly helpful, or any AI tool. So what we can do is, if it is hard for you to articulate what it is you do and why it's uniquely valuable to an organization, there are some prompts. And you can go through and think on your own. What are the projects you have successfully completed? What are some processes you have improved? How have you saved the company time or money? What recognition have you received, or what business goals have you exceeded? What is the broader business impact for your results? whether that's internal or external. I've impacted clients in this way. I've impacted accounts receivable in this way. We want to always tie it back to the business. But also for many of us, we have non-work context that we also want to bring in. Any volunteer work that you're doing. If you are a parent, are you not handling budget? Are you not project managing? Are you not negotiating there as well? So we can speak to all of the skills, everything that makes us special to an organization. And then you can put that in to chat to help build that out. This is also the pre-work because you want to be able to speak to it. These are all the things I do. I advise, even if you're not in the process right now of looking for another job, of having a Google Doc on your computer, and you just, because you'll forget, this is what I did. This is what I did. This is what I did. I did this too. I did this too. I mentored this employee. They got a promotion 6 months later. These are things that matter, and you want to be able to speak to it. And it was said right in the beginning, a good negotiation is I feel so connected to my sense of value, and I feel so connected to my ability to do this thing well, the conversation will flow from there. Everything else becomes quite easy. In a previous training, we talked about the STAR method. I love thinking about the STAR method as often as possible. We want to speak in this way. So the STAR method includes a situation, a task, an action, and a result. So I'm going to give you the long version and then how we would speak to it. So a situation, as a sales manager overseeing a team of 10 employees, the task, I needed to ensure consistent achievement of weekly revenue goals. The action was I implemented structured weekly one-on-one meetings, focusing on KPI analysis, achievement recognition, weakness identification, and roadblock resolution. The result, I drove consistent monthly team revenue of $100,000. If we were to sum that up, I led a 10-person sales team through implementation of structured weekly one-on-one meetings focused on KPI analysis and performance optimization, resulting in consistent monthly team revenue of $100,000. That might be too formal for you, but use that concept and make it your own. I don't care if you're selling a crumble cookie. I baked this many cookies a day, resulting in this much revenue a day. You can use this in any facet of your resume and your interview and your negotiation conversation. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. The next thing is just remembering our physical presentation. That is so much of it. Again, I go back and I will always go back. If I'm connected to my value, if I'm walking in knowing I deserve this, I'm great at this, this all very naturally happens. But we've all seen this element of personal communication. I think we've all understand that so much of the way we communicate is not just what we're saying. It's our physical presentation and our vocal presentation. I put this on here because for me, if I'm thinking I have to say everything perfectly, that's going to cause a lot of anxiety. I'm going to be nervous, and then I'm more than likely going to mess up. But if I go, no matter what, I can stand straight. I can work on the way I verbally speak. That feels easier to me. Our body language, it just says so much. And you can see in these pictures, one woman is very much demonstrating nervousness and anxiety, which you will probably no doubt feel, but we are going to present in a calm, confident manner. I always like to envision a lion for some reason, because I just think when you see a lion sitting out in the field, they're relaxed, but you know it's a lion, right? You see that power in the lion. It doesn't have to even say a thing. A power pose. There's a social psychologist, Amy Cuddy, who said that if you do a power pose, whatever that is for you, I don't know, a power pose, for 2 minutes. It increases your level of testosterone, which is the hormone that demonstrates confidence, and it decreases cortisol, which is what makes us feel stress. So you're basically just signaling to your brain. You're tricking your brain by physically standing in a certain way or sitting in a certain way and consciously being in that moment. You are signaling confidence, and then that comes through externally. Vocal techniques. I would encourage you, and this is so hard. I hate doing this, but I've done it myself. Think of something you can talk about easily. I could talk about my business all day long. I could talk about my children, whatever it may be. Video yourself speaking about it for 2 to 5 minutes, and then watch yourself back. You will see what it is you do here. But we want to avoid that upspeak. That's a statement that sounds like a question. I was thinking, maybe. You're not making a statement. You're asking a question. We're eliminating filler words. Like I say so a lot. I realized. Speaking at a measured pace. Again, if you think about out in the wild, an animal that feels threatened is, this and fast and jagged and all of this, where when we feel confident, we slow down. Physically, verbally, we slow down. Using deliberate pauses for emphasis, just having an awareness of our tonality and the way that we're speaking and thinking about, I'm demonstrating confidence here. I'm demonstrating capability here. Always speaking with authority. Where an undermining way would be, I was just wondering if maybe we could possibly consider, I'm sorry, I just wanted to see is it okay? The authoritative would be based on my research and contributions I propose. As a business owner, I want that person. I want the person that feels connected to their value. I want the person that can speak to it. Because in my brain, that registers as you've got this. I'm not going to need to do my job and your job. I need someone that feels so comfortable going, I got this job. I got it. Any questions, comments? Before we move on. Having a powerful opening statement. Again, these are a suggestion for you to then take and make your own. But I highly recommend that when you're entering that conversation, we're imagining that you've just received a job offer and we're going to negotiate almost always, no matter what. So we're going to do something along these lines. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so excited about the role and believe my experience in X makes me well positioned to contribute to your team's goals. I'd like to discuss the compensation package. I've done some research on market rates for this position with my qualifications, and based on my experience and the value I know I will bring to this organization, I will be looking for X. It's some version of thank you. I am really excited and eager to do this job and to do it well. I want to talk about comp. I've done my research. I know what I bring to the table. I know what the market is calling for, and this is what that aligns with. Questions? Thoughts? Again, you're prepared. You're capable. We're saying it over and over and over again. The next one is the power of the pause. There is a massive psychological impact that happens when you leave room for silence. As the studies show that it's 4 seconds. Let's take 4 seconds. I would be looking for X. It feels uncomfortable, and it will feel uncomfortable, but we can do hard things. And 4 seconds of discomfort that then energetically pulls someone in. When we pull back, can make a difference in that conversation in a positive way. I have a sister who is a cardiac ICU nurse, and as mentioned, negotiations, we have them all the time. Everyone in this room negotiates all the time. The stakes are just low, so it doesn't feel hard and it doesn't stand out to us, but you do it all the time. She will do this, and it makes me uncomfortable as an observer. She will ask for something and she will be quiet. She doesn't say, "It's okay if you don't worry. I can just." How many of us try filling that space and you automatically dissolve that powerful statement that you just had when we do that? Can anyone think of any other times we might want to pause? We want to do it right after we say what we want. Is there any other times that you're like, oh, that might be a good idea? Yes.
Teaching, you want to pause long enough for students to be able to process and be able to ask a question when you're asking a question.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of times teachers just immediately don't like that uncomfortable feeling of silence, so they immediately like either answer the question or go move on or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Also, sometimes immediately, and like the first day that you said something, the other person spoke, but not immediately, like actually even allowing just that little bit of talking made them continue,
Yeah.
especially where you at their response. I'm unsure if we can. And then instead of you immediately being, well, okay, well, it's okay, you can't, but actually just still sitting there so that they kind of continue with their,
Right.
but I mean, maybe I could go and look at actually get them.
Absolutely. They will fill this space if you don't, because it's uncomfortable. It just is for everybody. And so, to your point, if someone gives an offer that is low, don't say anything because they're going to know it's low. And so that's going to then put them on their toes to go, but we can do more PTO, but we can do a signing bonus, but we can accommodate in this way, right? We want to stay in that kind of position of power. And I will say it probably 10 more times before we're done today. When I pause, I am again in my own worthiness and value. I'm showing that. Yes.
Sorry.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question. We kind of actually get into that, but I'll go ahead and say now, if I were you, I would go back to, well, based on my experience, based on what I know I'm going to do in this organization, I do understand that this is in here, that there's often allowances for employees that have exceptional work. And I believe I fall in that category. So it's hard, but there are some times I worked for an organization that had no negotiation. You could not negotiate. It was a cultural thing, but it was also, that was the pay. You are in this role, this is your amount. So there are times where an organization will just have, I'm so sorry, this is the amount, and then we want to move into other areas that they might be able to total comp, which we'll also talk about. But yeah, I would turn it back on your value, what you're doing, why that extra amount makes sense, and put it back on them. Yeah, especially if they tell you it's in the budget, you know? Yeah. 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 And just for a reference, it- pay transparency is tricky. It's super important for us to have those conversations. A lot of people don't want to talk about money. And a lot of companies will detour you from talking about money, but it is important to have those conversations to understand, am I in alignment with my peers? So again, a very tricky thing to navigate, but very, very important to understand. Here's just a couple of little phrases that you can have in your pocket that are going to be a positive thing to kind of interweave into your conversations, but it's based on my research. I've done the work. I know what similar roles in this market are getting. My understanding of the value I bring to this organization. I know what I'm going to do here. Considering my specialized experience, the market range for professionals with my background is ... I've consistently delivered results that exceed expectations as demonstrated by such and such story. I would always have stories that connect to times where you did not know what you were doing and you figured it out. Times where you did not have the skill and you did it. Because we'll kind of get into that later, but always be prepared with those. So now, this is also, as we near the end of this training, overcoming objections. We were saying earlier in the conversation that the bravery to ask is 98% of it. That is 98% of it. But the ability to stay with it is also part of it, because your example, I am asking for this money and you say no. That is uncomfortable. So what we typically do is pull back. Okay. All right. We want to be prepared. You've got to be prepared for the objection. Best case scenario, they say yes. And that's wonderful. And we love that story, but we have to be prepared if not. And I want to say this too about self-advocacy. If you go through your professional life and you have a little advocate fairy that follows you around and makes sure that you are always paid well, that you always have the opportunity you need, that they just see it. Oh my gosh, Joe is doing such an amazing job. We're just going to give her more money. I would call myself an excellent worker. I love work. I am passionate about what I do. I have never been asked to do more. I always do more on my own. And I have had it happen once. I had it happen once in 18 years where they looked at me and they said, we're going to just give her more. It doesn't happen. You have to be willing to self-advocate. You have to be able to speak to what you want and what you're worth. You have to. Overcoming objections. Here's just a couple. We don't have the budget. That might be true. That might be true. This is it. Your friend as well. The market's terrible. We don't have the budget. But we're going to loop back around. I understand that. Perhaps we could discuss a performance-based increase in 3 to 6 months. Is that available? And then you put that on your calendar. And 3 to 6 months, you're following up. Your experience doesn't justify that salary. I'd like to share some specific achievements that demonstrate the level of impact I've had in my previous roles, which I believe aligned with the compensation I'm requesting. We have to be able to speak to, okay, yeah, maybe I don't. And also the awareness, that's the data that we're collecting. You might need 10 more years of experience before you're qualified for a role. But if you're at that 70%, you have 70% qualifications, we're going to speak to how you're feeling that 30%. Okay, I'm not all the way there, but I know I can get there because here's some stories to prove it. This is our standard offer. This is what we were just saying. I understand you may have guidelines. Many companies have flexibility within their ranges for candidates who bring exceptional value. Based on my experience with X, I believe I fall in that category. Just be ready. Anyone else have an objection you feel anxious about, nervous about, want to talk about, have experienced? The more connected you are to what you do, the more you have practiced in a mirror, in your car, You know what I've done? I have literally put on a voice memo when I've had to, I know that I'm going to have to speak to something. I will talk into a voice memo and listen to it in my car. This is what I do, and this is what I do well. And I hear it and I listen to it because it's uncomfortable for me. I have to work at it, but it's worth it. The last thing that we want to consider is total comp. You've got to consider this. It might not just be salary. I don't have on this one. Your 401k match, your insurance, those can add thousands of dollars to your year. So understanding the full package, they might not be able to meet your salary need, but you have a flexible work arrangement. If you have little ones, that's everything. That's a big deal. That matters. Additional PTO, who doesn't want an extra week of vacation? How does that add to your life, your enjoyment, your ability to rest? Professional development budgets, sign-on bonuses, performance bonuses, equity and stock options, mentorship opportunities. In my professional path, I took a couple lateral moves where I was not getting paid more, but I was getting experience that strategically I knew mattered. You know, I'm going to take a hit for a year and I'm not going to go further up, but I'm gaining all of this experience that's going to add to my value. So always consider total comp. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So the professional development, I worked for an organization that would allow you like $1,000 a year. You could do a language course. You could get school credit. Some organizations will pay for school reimbursements, or allow you to go to a conference where it's like, okay, this is in my field. This is let me try and think. This is a real estate thing, and you're in real estate, so you can go to the conference and kind of learn from it, things like that. You also asked for the technology stipend, so they might say, well, we're going to pay for your phone. We're going to make sure that you have a full setup in your home office as well. You're going to get a full computer. We'll pay for your desk. We'll pay for your chair. Things like that can be thousands of dollars. Was it mentorship that you asked? A mentor, just professional advice. If you can have a mentor, there is almost nothing that impacted my career more positively than when I had a impactful mentor. He changed my professional trajectory. So some organizations, that just happened to be my direct leader, and so it became a mentor relationship. And he had the bandwidth and luck was on my side. But some organizations have actual structured mentorship programs. So valuable. Especially when you're new in your career or entering into new levels of your career, to have someone say, here's a roadmap for you. Go your own way, make it yours, but this is the path, or this is how it uniquely works at this organization. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. It's huge. So you can ask those questions. Do you have these things available at your organization? Was there another one I missed? Yeah, I know that I don't know if UVU does this. I know Westminster did it because my husband actually went through it. Sometimes a university, Westminster, like partnered with executives in the community. So it was like the head of Zions Bank, like real great roles were invested in these mentorship programs. So maybe through the college and check that out. Google it, find it. And I think too, while we're talking about that, a lot of times it comes naturally. You start working with someone that's maybe slightly your senior, and you just start, can I bend your ear? Can I take you to lunch? I would just love to understand a little bit more here. Executive level people are often very busy, but I think they often also want to help. And if they can find a little avenue for that, I think that feels good. So yeah, I would start at the universities and see if they have any mentorship opportunities. Yes, we'll start here. No, I think there's a little switch on there you might have to turn on.
I worked at Hillfield. The GS 1213 engineers were trying very hard to get higher, but they were not able to because no one would let them know the ropes.
Yeah.
For job security. But there was one guy whose name was Jim, and he was able to contact a friend who was retiring who told him everything, so he was able to move past. Otherwise, it was just too hard.
Yeah. It can feel actually impossible. So yes, that's wonderful.
Probably falls a little bit under the flexible work arrangements. Obviously, if you're a parent, that's massive. But another way that can be used that I didn't realize was going to become valuable to me until I started in the job that I have is the ability to serve on boards, or, whether that's you represent the company on a board or just your own kind of outside interest, having the ability and the time to go and do that. I was on PTA for years. I do a bunch of different things, and I'm involved with my city a lot. And so having just the flexibility to go and do that is valuable to me, because not every company would offer me that time. So that's another way you could look at flexible work arrangements, is not just for kids, but for like other outside interests that are just going to help you be better at your job.
And that's such a great point, because being actively engaged in those things also gives you networking abilities. It gives you you get the chance to have a web of people. Like, I need help with this, I'm calling him. I need help with this, I'm calling her. So absolutely, I think it's massively valuable to have a job situation where, like you said, I can go for an hour and be a part of whatever it is. Absolutely. That's a great point. Any other thoughts on total comp to be considered? Okay, we made it. We got to the end. Hopefully there's even one nugget that helps you in those conversations. Preparation is everything. We're collecting all of the data at every single touch point. The work we do inside ourselves, the work we do when we're reading a job description. What does this mean? How does it directly tie to what I do? Understanding the market, understanding that individual organization. What is their bandwidth? We're using data as often as we possibly can. The psychology of negotiation, really looking at those core beliefs that might be limiting us. Reframing negotiation is something positive. It's not a win-lose. It is a mutual dynamic between you and your employer. And as I will say, not everyone feels this way. I always want to pay people. I want to pay them what they want, because I want excellence. I want the best person. I need the best person. I don't have the bandwidth to do it all. Utilizing those strong opening statements, framing our posture, our tone, remembering that those things matter, handling those objections. We don't shrink right at the end when it's kind of the second hardest thing. Translating those day-to-day tasks and tying them back to the organization. What is it you want from me? I'm going to speak to it. This is what I do. This is what I'm excellent at. This is where I thrive. And this is how it will impact your company in a positive way. It's so important. I've said it before. It's worth the work. It's worth the time. Doing this much more than most people sets you in a level that is notable. It is noticeable. Okay? It's just this much more. So I wish you the very best in your future negotiation conversations. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your thoughts and your contributions to this conversation. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was very practical, excellent advice. And thanks to all of you for participating and asking good questions. I think this is something that skills that we all need to develop. And I think you showed us some very clear strategies to move forward and be more effective in negotiation. So thank you. Thank you all for coming. Our next event will be a virtual event, and it will be at noon. And it will be the third Wednesday of April. So we'll be sending out more information on that. Okay, thank you.